Hello, welcome to my symbol analysis of the Howling Abyss map. In this video, I aim to examine how the infinity symbol, specifically the Ouroboros, is present in some way in nearly every symbol in this map. This is part one of a question mark long series regarding symbology and visual motifs in League of Legends. There's a few things I want to mention before I get started. One, I'm not going to be getting into any lore in this video or talking about who the Watchers are. I might in future videos, but I'm not sure yet. Two, I'm going to be going over a lot of information pretty quickly, so feel free to pause at any point. If you had the chance, I also think it would be good to look at the map yourself. All you need to do is pause a replay and you can zoom around freely. Three, I apologize for the audio in this video. I am not really a YouTuber. I just think this map is really amazing and I want to share it with people. Anyway, let's get started. The Ouroboros is a common symbol of a snake or dragon eating or chasing its own tail. You've probably seen it before, and after having spent many hours playing League of Legends, I personally believe some of the people at Riot might have been inspired by this symbol. The Ouroboros is pretty versatile in what it represents, but infinity and endlessness are what I plan to focus on today. Specifically, I will be discussing the figure 8 Ouroboros, which is very similar to the current Western symbol for infinity. The easiest place to spot the figure 8s is on the 4 bricks that surround the inhibitors and turrets. We can also see 2 figure 8s sort of entangled with each other over on the fire pit. And if you look really close on the lip of the fire pits, you can see some figure 8s wrapped around the edges. We also see the figure 8 on the statue of the king holding a sword. There's a couple of these statues. And if we look really close, we can see this new pattern start to emerge of a figure 8 with 3 sections, sort of this little twist. We will be seeing a lot of this, and with that pattern in mind, I want to look at the stone carvings through the center of the map. We see the sort of 3-sectioned figure 8 in between the inhibitors and the nexus. And there is another one. The next one is a 5-section figure 8. And the final, the most interesting, is where the pattern starts to diverge. And we get this sort of sword shape birthed from the figure 8s. In my opinion, this will not be the only time the infinity pattern is conflated with the hilt and blade of a sword. At this point, you can probably guess that the stone carvings to the center of the red side mirror the blue side, with both sides ending in 2 pointed swords. But this still leaves us with one section of the pattern left unaccounted for between where the swords meet. My first guess when I was looking at this map for the first time was that the center would show a carving of a battle, but the reality is actually much cooler than that. If we look, we can't see the pattern because the ground has literally been destroyed by that battle. On the side of the bridge here, we see the continuous figure 8 patterns once again on top of this sort of horned eye statue. The eye has 6 sides and a dot in the center, and notice how similar the shape is to the hilt of the sword. We even have this symbol on the health pack that serves as kind of an intermediary between the beast's eye and the sword hilt. So far, you might be starting to see a link the map is drawing between the figure 8, the sword, and the eye with horns. But if we look back at the center of the bridge, we can see another image becoming conflated with the figure 8, the chain link. Links of chain covered the entire map. The figure 8 itself has almost a chain-like quality to itself, but I actually want to put a pin in this because we really need to explore the red and blue spawns at this point. I want to start with the blue side. Over here, we see 6 stones with 3-part figure 8s, and in the center, we see this sort of hologram of this dead bull creature. I'm very sorry to anyone who actually knows the name of this guy. I don't know any lore. Considering the shape of his horns, I assume this is the same being that the statues show holding a sword, also this carving that I couldn't really find a good angle to show. We also see an icon of his shape underneath him, which is the same icon displayed on the Freljord flag. With this in mind, let's look at the red side. The patterns we've seen before continue in many places along the architecture. Over here we see the eye with horns, and on the ground before it we see the etching of a beast below a symbol of an eye that looks like both a sword hilt and a chain link. Over here we see a dilapidated eye with horns that has what looks like both the shape of a sword and or the shape of a king etched into it. If we zoom out, we can actually see more dilapidated eyes, one over here and one over here. These resemble the previous ones we looked at exactly, except they seem to have retained more of their original shape. You might notice they look like pieces of broken swords, but what's more interesting is this pattern also repeats several times within themselves. With swords in mind, I want to go back to the eye in the center of the bridge. We see how the eye and the horns look like the hilt of the sword, but where's the blade? The answer is pretty simple when you realize the Freljord flag, which itself shows the image of the king holding a sword, is the shape of a blade. Tying this all back to the Ouroboros, I would argue that all of the symbols mentioned before are parts of the eternal cycle of the Howling Abyss. Even the map itself resembles two chain links if you zoom out all the way. So what does this all mean? Honestly, it's pretty open to interpretation, and it's likely I've missed many patterns in this video. I also haven't read most of the lore, but I can say from trying to interpret this map just from its repeating symbols that the Howling Abyss is a chain of endless battles fought between two sides, one that worships the king with horns and hates the eye, and the other who worships the eye and hates the king with horns. Ultimately, though, both of these beings are part of the same monster.